And the fans sitting down awaiting destiny for Trinidad and Tobago. They know it's waiting for a Gold Cup. It's waiting for the next World Cup. But in many ways, it was a wait that they had thought had ended in 1989 until Paul Caligiuri struck. And today, the United States steps in that very horizon, on the verge of what would be their 8th straight World Cup, and only Trinidad and Tobago in their way. Phil Shane alongside Kobe Jones. And Kobe, it only seems like you've been around that long, but you played with a lot of the players that had to take that first step and end the trip in the desert. This is an emotional day for Trinidad and the United States, and here's how they will come out. The birthday boy Adrian Fonset will be in goal. It's a very young team put out by Dennis Lawrence.
Yeah, and I think when we look at this side, a couple of changes to pay attention to when you have Alvin Jones, number 17, at that right back position, and then you also have Tristan Hodges at the left back position. So expect some fresh legs in there, maybe to have a go at the outside of the defenders of the United States.
Good look at Juan Carlos Guerra, the Guatemalan referee. He was in charge of the U.S. friendly against New Zealand recently. Ronaldo de la Cruz, the other Guatemalan, will be the senior linesman. David Moran from El Salvador will be on the other line. Fernando Guerrera is the 4th official from Mexico. Good look at the U.S. bench, and it is somewhat deep, and they could keep their same positions. Take a look at what's going on here as Tim Howard still in goal. No change from the last time out.
Now we really pay attention, as everyone is talking about, Christian Pulisic on that right wing position, but expect him to come underneath and really be the maestro for this United States team. So everything will build up through him, and the connection between him and Bobby Wood and Altidore is going to be extremely important, especially that dirty work that Bobby Wood has been giving for the United States.
Looks like Mr. Guerra just about ready to get us underway. Good look at Adrian Fonset, now 28 years of age, his 9th cap. One of the older players on this Trinidad and Tobago roster tonight. Only one that is older, well, Curtis Gonzalez on the back line, Kaleem Highland, who turned 28 earlier this year. Might be mistaken. You can almost hear what sounds like the pumps that were being used to drain this field prior to get this game underway. And the ball launched long. Trinidad and Tobago in their familiar red and black. Slotted down for Nathan Lewis and the speedy winger from San Juan Jablote to the inside. Here's Darlington Nagbe. No change, as we mentioned. The only real question for the United States was as to whether Christian Pulisic's ailing calf would be healthy in time, Kobe. Is it a risk to play the same 11, or is it a lock?
Well, I think it's a lock. I think you have to play the same 11 that it did so well against Panama, because you want to keep the consistency, and you don't change a winning lineup. And they played so well, a dominant performance in the last match, that you want those players out there. And look, as a coach, Bruce Arena obviously asked those players, how are you feeling? And if they come back with they are doing all right and they look physically well, then you go with it.
Ball back for Omar Gonzalez and Matt Beasler. These two reuniting of sorts, and that has been a weak spot for the U.S. in qualifying, finding a pairing in the back two, to the point where they actually went with a back three at times.
When things are a little bit suspect, you shift, you try new things, and you see what works out. But I think for the most part, you'll see the United States probably with the back four as much as possible, because now in the modern game, you can play with the back four, have the outside backs push forward as much as possible, drop in the number 6, and you get that 3 in the back. So you'll see a lot of change, throughout.
Chance for Beasler, slots it up for Michael Bradley. How does Bradley's role change in this narrow diamond formation?
I think it's a lot more of an ask for Michael Bradley to do a lot more running you know, trying to be a defensive midfielder that, you know, has to cover a lot more ground than I think he's used to when you're playing a flat four. You know, he needs to be that player that can get on the ball offensively to help build out of the back because he's such a good passer.
Take a look at the other matches that are going on. Trinidad and Tobago, as you can see on the left, but Honduras and Mexico, Panama and Costa Rica also kicking off. And from a U.S. perspective, maybe not that much reason to worry about the other two matches. Win and you're in. But there also is a duel between Panama and Honduras for that fourth spot that could go down to the wire. We'll get into the particulars a bit later, but let's just say that the statistics show the United States with a 93% chance of qualifying, and an early goal might move that even closer to 100%. Far side, Pulisic with his first chance, double teamed quickly, stripped away. Levi Garcia playing some defense. It'll be a U.S. throw. Inside for Shadon Winchester. It was his goal that made Mexico worry a bit. Ball seems to kick off the heels of the Guatemalan referee and right back to Trinidad and Tobago. Chance wide for Lewis, inside for Winchester. Sweeping through with the strong right leg is Matt Beasler. Right back to the Soca Warriors, though. Slotted in, Winchester in the box. Gets it through Howard, but the flag was up. A little bit dangerous, but offside.
These are a little look at how that U.S. back line, you see how they're slanted a little bit. That line's got to be a little bit more connected. As offside Winchester by a yard or so, but that's what he's going to be looking to do. Skirt that back line. If there's any disconnect, he will be able to break that line, and you do not want him going one-on-one with Tim Howard. As good as Tim Howard is, you don't want to give those opportunities up.
Howard, 38 years of age, 10 years the senior of the Trinidadian counterpart. Ball blasted away. And there's a big man, Daniel Cyrus, plays his soccer in Honduras, 71st cap for the Trinidadian center back. Here's one of the two new players. They've changed the outside backs. Other than that, it's the same other 9. Tristan Hodge and Alvin Jones, both from W Connection. Here is Jones out wide. That's Jovan's younger brother, blasting it in, and it bangs off Villafana and out. Nice chance on the turn for Lewis, but ridden to the end line, and out it goes.
You can tell already from how Trinidad and Tobago has come out that they are coming out willing to go at the back, at the outside backs of the United States. They're going to try to get a pace and get around those backs and try to get those crosses in. And we see the field a little bit bumpy. We've heard that it's going to feel a little bit heavy. So that really evens things out. And the things that are left to chance, it's going to be the speed, it's going to be the pace. And that's a T&T side that is not lacking in those in either way.
Altidore pushing it out on the far side, kept in by Arreola using his speed. Tuck back, Altidore shot, cannons it over the crossbar. Beautiful build up, but the shot sails high. Seventh minute as we take a look at the table here. Mexico in front. Costa Rica already clinching. They got that with that last second goal against Honduras. The United States, that 13th point would be good enough if nothing else changes to punch their ticket for Russia. Bradley in good position. Here's Nagbe. Little quiet in the match against Panama, but was that Nagbe not showing up or Nagbe doing the things that tend not to show up?
I think it's more of Nagbe doing the things, you know, that people don't really pay attention to. He does a lot of that dirty work of a midfielder. He holds on to the ball. He allows the United States to keep possession. He gets in the right spaces, makes connecting passes. And one thing that Nagbe's very good at, and he's known for, he doesn't lose the ball very much. And that's important for a national team. You want to be able to keep possession as much as possible, especially on conditions like this where it's very easy to lose the ball with the surface and such. You want to see if you can find a way to hold the ball.
Ball off to Nathan Lewis, pulls it back towards the Trinidadian ends. Gives us an opportunity to bring in the third member of our broadcast crew, Julian Gonzalez, pitch side at the Atto Bolden. Julian, how's the field holding up?
It was tough. I mean, some of these guys, you can see they're very cautious when they're stepping. We saw Christian Pulisic, as soon as he planted, he slipped, landed his bomb. Don't know if he went back into the locker room and changed his cleats. Of course, that's up to the player to do that. But for right now, it's kind of holding up good. I did notice before the match, right where Tim Howard standing was a little bit soft.
Again, talking to longtime Trinidad and Tobago press officer Sean Fuentes earlier today, and he was saying that the center of the pitch has held up well. It is soggy and could chew up on the fringes, though. Ball blasted across in for Winchester, but his shot off target took a deflection, though, and it'll be a corner kick.
We're seeing those consistent runs down this right flank for Trinidad and Tobago, and they're finally, you know, starting to get those crosses in. And Winchester's a player that likes to, he's very mobile inside the box. He's able to pull off of the defenders and get that quick step to get to the ball first.
Blasted in, corner of the 18. Levi Garcia dispossessed, though. Nagbe flips it into the middle, but missed the run of Areola, and right back to Trinidad and Tobago. Something we talked about in the pre-match, in fact, one of our keys to the game, Kobe. The U.S. knows it is practically assured of a trip to Russia. All they have to do is not lose, play for the draw, but sometimes that can be dangerous.
Yeah, well, you can never, or you should never play for a draw. You go out there to win. You know, and if you can go out there and put yourself in a much better position, putting yourself in a position where you are at least winning the game, you know, you're hoping that at worst you come out with a draw. You play for 0-0, you tend to give the opportunities to the other team.
Again, as you see, no score. Over the far side, looking for Garcia again. The youngster based in Holland puts the pressure on Gonzalez. Gonzalez has been called upon over the last few qualifiers, especially after injuries struck the United States back line. And he's had a few shaky moments, but over the last couple of games seems to have refound his footing, and probably no coincidence he's paired with Matt Beasler again. Those two Ironmen for the U.S. in the race for 2014.
And when you're talking about center back pairings, probably some of the most important positions on the team, you need to have two players that have an understanding of each other and how each other play, because any type of mistake can lead to a goal scoring opportunity for the other team.
Nice outlet ball from Gonzalez, but Jose Altidore pays the price. Areola pressuring. They'll retreat all the way to Gonzalez. And again, for Trinidad and Tobago, they are in the position of spoiler, as they have been since a late defeat against Panama. This is a team that is 0-1-8 in their last qualifiers. 6 straight defeats. Getting a talking to here. Juan Guerra. The Soka Warriors have been struggling, but under Dennis Lawrence, they're looking towards the future. Levi Garcia at 19. See the number 8 flashing through. Kaleem Highland and Lester Paul, two of the older players, 28 and 27 respectively, but they have their eyes firmly on the next Gold Cup. Beasler with the throw in near midfield. All the way back, slips away from Gonzalez. There was some thought that the United States might go with 3 in the back. Also a question about Pulisic's health. Maybe stick Clint Dempsey in, or perhaps Dax McCarty or Kellen Acosta to give Michael Bradley some space. Is this a situation of chemistry, or if it's working, don't mess with it?
Don't mess with it. You know, that's all there is. And even if you want to play with 3 in the back, you can see how the United States are building. The 2 center backs, each outside back is pushing forward. That third defender is truly Michael Bradley dropping in between the 2 center backs to receive the ball, and that's how they're building out.
Bruce Arena muttering to himself. It's going to be a long night until qualification is assured. Ariola flying into Altidore, and the foul goes against the United States.
I think Altidore gets caught with just kind of a little bit of a swing of that palm, trying to take an advantage.
Good pressure on Fonset, but he does get it out, quickly reclaimed by the United States. Altidore tries to chip it in, but Tristan Hodge doing well. Celebrated his 24th birthday yesterday, but Hodge again part of that next generation. Alvin Jones. Mentioned younger brother of Jovan Jones with Seattle, who is on the bench here today. There's also another connection. Their father Kelvin was on the field for Trinidad and Tobago, part of that Soca Warrior team back in 1989 that lost to the United States, ready to celebrate a World Cup only to see Paul Caligiuri snatch it away. And then 40 years in the desert for the United States.
It's a bit of a historic moment for the United States, courtesy of Paul Caligiuri.
Shot heard round the world, and there are still reverberations in Trinidad and Tobago. Good from Wood. Double teamed and held up by Kaleem Highland, and the foul goes against Highland. Free kick. Saw Dennis Lawrence in the background at the edge of the technical area. He seems to be pleased. What do you think it is that's bothering Bruce? Is it the grabbing, the tugging, or perhaps some problem with the U.S. team?
I'd say this early on, I think Bruce Arena understands that his team is still trying to establish the rhythm, but what he's probably having the issue with is the referee. You know, at this point, probably thinking that his players need to be protected a little bit more. The foul's called a little bit earlier as soon as it's seen, for the referee to blow the whistle.
BeInSports.com for all of the latest. Of course, share your thoughts on Twitter, beIN Sports USA, ESPN Sports. On our Spanish side, beIN Sports in Espanol. All the coverage from the South American qualifiers. And again, final round, and even Uruguay, well, butt clinched, but only one team has qualified, and that's Brazil. So the other spots still to be won. By the way, mention Uruguay. Here is a chance. Ball flipped in, and a chance for Bolivia that's converted. So 2-1 there. Driven across towards the penalty spot. Tips up and in, and Winchester not even sure how he did it. It's a trick shot of sorts, but it loops over Tim Howard, and Trinidad and Tobago in front.
Well, this is what we mentioned where the issues were coming. The continuous attack down the right flank of Trinidad. You see Alvin Jones actually swings this ball in. He gets into this space. All he needs is that little bit of room. He looks up trying to find Winchester here, and it's Omar Gonzalez with an extremely poor clearance, and it ends up going off of Gonzalez's shin and just looping right over Tim Howard. Gonzalez has to do a better job of this. He's got to make sure it's a good connection and clear this out. Unfortunate for the United States and unfortunate for Tim Howard, but now all of a sudden the U.S. in trouble, down 1-0 against Trinidad in Trinidad.
Well, remember, it wasn't that long ago, start of September, where Gonzalez had a nightmare. Similar play like that, but this time he gets the tackle and cleanly, says the referee, even if Dennis Lawrence disagrees. So in many ways, Omar Gonzalez needed that tackle just to get something going his way.
Needed the tackle, but it tells me as well this back line, it's putting themselves in a dangerous situation. Ooh. And that's a penalty.
That is. He goes down to try and hit the ball, but well played, and that should have been a penalty, and Trinidad should have a chance to be going up by 2.
Now, fortunate for the U.S. because Omar Gonzalez gets the man, then collects the ball. You know, and that's a foul inside the box.
That was Garcia, but kept the ball on the outside, and Garcia and Gonzalez on the inside, and Gonzalez had to go through the man to get the ball. You see Jeff Cameron on the bench. He is available, but Arena electing to go with Gonzalez, and it's cost him once and almost twice.
But what this tells me as well is after scoring the goal, the U.S. is let down mentally. They put themselves in a dangerous position. Yedlin gets caught up the field. Garcia is able to go one-on-one against Omar Gonzalez, and it takes a little bit of a desperation defensive maneuver to try to win that ball.
Bump into the back by Villafana. .4-2-18 all time for Trinidad and Tobago against the United States. Even a losing record at home in World Cup qualifying, just 2 wins in the 7 prior meetings. And as we mentioned, there's a don't lose mentality, a play for the draw mentality. And even if the U.S. is saying that they're not playing that way, they have not been really pushing Trinidad and Tobago back. And right now they find themselves in the hole. Tucked inside for Paul. Here's Lewis. He eludes Villafana. Gets around Bradley. Nathan Lewis, 27-year-old winger, now doubling up on that far side, but it gets away from Garcia, and the U.S. will get a throw. And Dennis Lawrence, keep talking about 1989, but it was 2005 when Trinidad made it back in CONCACAF qualifying and into that playoff spot against Asia. Similar story to this time around. And he scored the goal against Bahrain that did get Trinidad and Tobago to Germany 2006. Not bad for a center back. Josie Altidore, a blind pass. Bradley had stayed back, but Altidore didn't know it. Now wide and attacking Gonzalez again. Levi Garcia. Yedlin nowhere to be seen. A pass at the top of the 18, and the U.S. a bit fortunate there. Nagbe tries to poke that one through. Alvin Jones in good position. Kobe, nearing the midway point of this opening half, we're past the point of opening jitters. Slotted through. Here's Winchester again, and again combining with Gonzalez, but Howard out to make it difficult. They're going to say out for a goal kick.
The United States is putting themselves in a poor position. There is no pressure around the ball in the midfield. Now, I get you can talk about the field being bad, but that's when you have the ball. There's still got to be pressure on these midfielders whenever they receive the ball. There's got to be someone stepping up and putting a bit of pressure on the players centrally.
All the way down to the birthday boy Fonset, who got a little gift courtesy of the own goal. Trinidad and Tobago, over their last 9, have been outscored 20-7 in all competitions. Haven't won since Kevin Molino did it back against Panama in March. Molino not even available today. Yellow card against Mexico got him suspended for this match and sent back to Minnesota United. Gonzalez, Beasler. Small stadium here, only holds about 10,000, and many of the Trinbagonians so frustrated with qualifying they have not shown up, but guaranteed that they are watching. Michael Bradley directing traffic all the way back, although cutting a corner to Beasler is Gonzalez. Again, from the United States perspective, looking for an equalizer here via Fania, but offside. If he had left it for Wood, maybe against left back. Win, and there. Well, the one danger from the United States perspective, if they lose and Panama finds the victory against Costa Rica, and if Honduras is able to come back against Mexico and win, the U.S. would also be out. And what we saw earlier today, Kobe, you don't want to be in that fourth spot. Australia had a hard fought battle against Syria, but the Socceroos look tough.
Yeah, they're a difficult side. And for the United States, it's really about this match, not worrying about anything else. Getting the result here. It's still early on in the match, but they need to start playing a bit better. They need to be more aggressive going forward, offensively and in the midfield. This is a bit better, getting numbers around the ball and winning the ball centrally.
Gifted back to Cyrus. Daniil rolling it all the way back, and Fonset calm under pressure. Now the U.S. tries to turn the heat up. No pun intended. Temperature 82 degrees at kickoff, and as you might be able to tell on the face and bodies of many of these players, very humid. Jones rolls it back. Cyrus chips it forward. Good control by Lewis. Double teamed, and he'll win a throw in. Take a look at the table now. Mexico with the 3 points, stretching their lead. Costa Rica still tied. U.S. losing at 12, and you can see all it would take would be a goal from Panama, and the U.S. would be forced into that playoff. Gonzalez rolls it back. Altidore trying to blast it through Leston Paul, but no. Pulisic has to come all the way into his own end. Here's Nagbe upended, and a foul on Jones.
We'll see as Nagbe gets on this ball. It's just a quick foul. Just trying to, by Alvin Jones, just slowing Nagbe down, trying not to let him play forward quickly, because Trinidad and Tobago want to do this. They want to drop their numbers in. They want to play solid defensively, have these lines of defense, win the ball, and then get forward quickly on the counter.
A chance for Wood. Double teamed. Bumped away by Hodge. Gets another chance here. Hodge stays on him, though. Wood wide for Yedlin. Back for Bradley. Yedlin held in check against Panama for the most part, letting Arriola do a lot of the running. One touch flick by Pulisic goes awry. Here is Arriola. Good through ball for Yedlin, but it had some pace on it. Had to just slam it into the middle. Altidore in. Out comes Fonset. Slams into Pulisic, and it's cleared away. Quickly down out to make that Areola off for Pulisic, on his feet but off target.
Well, you saw as the United States had one of the few good looks. You see Fonseca coming out and punching that away, but it came off of a cross from Yedlin. Yedlin overlapping run, the ball gets played through into space, but that bumpiness on the field right when Yedlin's trying to make the cross, so it's not a clean cross and it pops up in the air. There is where you see some of the issues with the field that isn't in the best shape, that it can affect the players and what they truly want to do on the field.
Strong header by Gonzalez, almost frees Wood. Nice tackle by Cyrus to maintain possession. Bradley steps up but misses. Highland gets away from the challenge and now turns upfield. Skims all the way to the back door. Nathan Lewis, but denied as Villafana back in time. That was dangerous.
Extremely dangerous as the ball comes up that left flank. A little slip, a mistake, allowing the player to get down the left flank and swing the cross in. And it truly is a perfect ball because you have your defenders facing their own goal. The ball's in with pace. And on this field, we've already seen one mistake. They don't want to touch it, so they let it fly through to the back post.
Pulisic, little flip to try and get around. Now rolls to the middle. Here's Nagbe in the center channel. Eludes Gonzalez, but then lost his balance on the choppy turf. Forget about maintaining possession. Keeping your feet can be hard. Dangerous ball in the middle for Paul and a wide open.
Well, there's the issue. Too much space centrally for the United States, just allowing players to have acres of room.
Lewis again goes through but seems to get stuck in the heavy turf. Both teams trying to go down the sidelines, but that's where the field is at its worst. Kobe much made of pushing Pulisic up with Altidore and Wood and even Areola and Nagbe. But if you saw some of the statistics from the last match, you had your back four, your front five, and Michael Bradley, the sheriff, in between. A lot of ground to cover for one man.
A lot of ground, and as we're seeing the United States being a bit more aggressive and pushing those numbers forward, we're seeing Michael Bradley get caught solo trying to cover not one but sometimes two players, and that player could be 15-20 yards away, and he's just, no player is quick enough to cover that.
Here's Hodge. Bradley with a touch. Pulisic rides the challenge. Burst of speed. Ball bounces his way, but then stopped at the feet of Curtis Gonzalez. Back to Gonzalez from the appropriately named Defense Force club in Trinidad. Hodge harassing his Yedlin, and enough to the point where the whistle blows. How much has Yedlin improved? Rafa Benitez, when he signed him from Seattle to Newcastle, promised he would turn him into a Premier League caliber right back, and it seems like he's on his way.
Yeah, I think he's on his way. He has always had speed. The big issue for Yedlin was, having the ball at his feet, being able to build, and the timing. Timing is so important for outside backs of when to make that run to get in the space, and I think that's improved tremendously since we've first seen the move from Seattle.
And again, much was made of the scoreline against Panama, but there were some scary moments, and DeAndre Yedlin came to the rescue more than once. Areola understanding the words of caution from Guerra, maybe his last warning before a caution. By the way, we've talked about cautions, and should the U.S. qualify for the World Cup, the 9 players who are currently holding on to a yellow card would see those cards tossed. No need to really worry, even if they do get one here today. The problem is, if the U.S. falls to 4th and has to play in that playoff, that's still the qualification rounds. So those 9 players, if they get a caution here today, would be missing the first match against Australia. So maybe not quite as dangerous as it was against Panama, where you might miss the finale. But You definitely want to try and have a full slate when you're taking on the Socceroos. Julian Gonzalez on the sideline right now, and the United States just doesn't seem to be able to find its rhythm, Julian.
Not at all. It looks very frustrated, and a very frustrated team. As you look at the sideline, I just saw Bruce Arena shout something to the equipment manager. The equipment manager goes to near the stands, says something to somebody from U.S. Soccer. Who knows, they're going to start changing the studs or something like this, but a very frustrated side. And guys, I just want to also add that like everybody else, the U.S. Soccer Federation, their officials are all scoreboard watching as I speak. There's a lot of sweat being perspired on these sidelines for the U.S. Soccer.
Thank you very much, Julian. And Mexico again with that 1-0 lead, giving the U.S. a little breathing room, at least when it comes to 5th place, as Matt Beasler steps in. But again, Panama, Costa Rica at last check still scoreless. Burst of speed from Ariola, but enough of a touch before Wood can get there. George does. Surrendering the throw in, Alvin Jones. Kobe, again, credit goes to Lawrence, what he's been able to do, even though they've ended up losing these matches against the likes of Mexico and Honduras, Costa Rica, and even the United States. The match back in summer. This is not the team that looked so lost early on. They've given the teams a battle.
Without a doubt. And you talk about Dennis Lawrence, the coach of Trinidad and Tobago. This is a look for the future. You know, he's brought in some young players, and they are showing well. And it's really about how they're going to mature into the next rounds, into the next tournaments, and they're looking pretty good right now. Most importantly, they look organized, and that's not something that you could say too often about a Trinidad and Tobago side over the previous years.
Chance now as we jump back to the Metropolitano in San Pedro Sula. Honduras with a free kick against Mexico, who lead 1-0 on the Peralta goal, and it's launched inside, and it looks like it's Albert Ellis who just gets a touch. So Honduras has equalized. They have a point, and that means they have moved just a bit closer, 1 goal away, perhaps from leaping over Panama and the U.S. Wood, the deflection, takes it wide, and the U.S. will get a corner kick out of it.
Well, this is a moment for the United States. If you're in a situation, you're a little bit of trouble, the field situation isn't the best for you, and you haven't adjusted to it well, these are the moments, these are the times where you can really equalize. You can bring your guys up into the area. These guys where you have to think that the United States has an advantage.
Bradley, Nagbe flips it back. The Toronto FC captain laid off, but Nagbe had cleared, retreating, and so no real pressure on Trinidad as they blasted away. And as you see, Honduras back level with Panama, although there is a 5-goal differential between those two. So they have to hope that the Ticos, who actually have 1 day's less rest, because remember, all the rain from then Tropical Storm Nate forced that match to be delayed. So it's a tired Tico squad, but if they can hold on, Honduras maybe with a chance to grab that 4th spot, if not more.
Well, speaking of tired, it looks a little bit like a tired U.S. squad. You know, we have to remember they played a game just a few days ago, and it seems to be affecting the players.
Long distance blast, and it's Alvin Jones. One for the legend books. Oh my! His first Trinidadian goal, and he might as well retire right now. World class doesn't do that justice.
Oh my, what a bomb from distance. Watch this ball move. It's rising, it's dipping, and it's moving in and out. Absolutely brilliant strike from Alvin Jones from distance, right into the side netting. No chance for Tim Howard in the net.
Well, That goal now makes it an even bigger hill for the United States, and they might need some help getting up on top of it. His first goal in his 10th cap, and Jovin's younger brother, well, let's just say there's more to write home about. And maybe his dad, again, part of that 1989 Soka Warriors team, something to smile about. World-class goal from the 23-year-old defender.
You can just see how this is moving, and look, there's going to be a lot of talk about could Tim Howard have done better on that, and everyone's going to say yes, but the way that ball is moving, how it's rising, then dips, and then is moving in and out, that's just a brilliant strike, making it difficult for any keeper to have a chance at that.
As Julian Gonzalez had mentioned, the field inside the box where Tim Howard was trying to get his footing, very choppy. And here, as we see, the Ticos have scored against Panama. Venegas goes to the corner to celebrate. And the Canaleros again on the final qualifying day, seeing their World Cup dreams get ripped away. Last time around, it was Graham Zusi and Aaron Johansson. Today, it's Venegas. And that will lift Honduras into the 4th spot. Offside as Winchester coming back from an offside position. Now, from a U.S. perspective, the goal for the Ticos does not do much. The real concern from the U.S. would be another goal from Honduras to take the lead over Mexico, who have nothing to prove. They've already locked the top spot. They will be the highest seeded team out of CONCACAF, probably in pot 2. And in case you were reading some of the hieroglyphics that were necessary to understand how the FIFA draw will take place, the United States did have a chance, but a whole bunch of other things needed to happen. The main thing, though, was a U.S. victory, and that is not happening. So here, as you see, Honduras into the playoff spot, which would be against Australia. If you missed it earlier today, the Aussies ended Syria's World Cup dreams. Bradley plays it back. Something Bruce Arena said on the day of that Panama match was that he had not given a moment of thought to this Trinidadian match. And you can understand that, because a loss against Panama, and this might have almost been a moot point, but this does look like a team that doesn't exactly know what it's doing. Pulisic off to Nagbe, little stutter step, kicks it wide, touched across via Fania, comes off the chest of Jones and out for the corner.
Well, we'll see this time if the United States elects to be a little bit more direct. I'm not sure why off of these corner kicks they want to play small when we know that the field isn't in the best shape, so a mistake can happen. You have an advantage. You have a size advantage on these, and this ball needs to be swung into the box and let some of your big guys from the back that have moved up go after it. Beasler, Gonzalez.
And Josie Altidore making his 110th appearance on the verge of history as well. Looking for Altidore, trickles down and then blasted away to safety. Altidore tying Carlos Bocanegra and Paul Caligiuri for 10th on the all-time cap list. Clint Dempsey 3rd on that list. Michael Bradley has tied him at the moment, although still 24 caps behind someone named Kobe Jones. You starting to hear the footsteps?
I've been hearing those for a while, man.
Nagbe lifts it up and launches it over. Decent run for Pulisic, but there's no way he's coming on the end of that one.
Well, there's a name that we haven't mentioned too much, Pulisic. He has to get more involved in this match. We haven't seen him nearly as much as we did in the previous match against Panama. He was much more active and being involved. So far, he hasn't done a whole lot.
Ford halftime show coming up with recaps on all of the action, and there have been a few shaky situations in South American qualifying, and the United States might be just a little more relieved. Taking a look here, Carlos Vela back in the good graces of El Tri and back on the score sheet, so no longer tied in San Pedro. Honduras finds itself trailing 2-1, and that's good news for Panama, who now jump back into fourth. Up for Pulisic, didn't hear the footsteps. Nice defense, Kevin George. It's already 2-0, 2.5 minutes left in this opening stanza. And the United States has largely been bereft of ideas.
And this field is so stretched. It's almost like two different teams are playing, where you have these strikers and some of the midfielders all the way up, and then you have your defenders all the way back. The U.S. needs to be more compact all the way around to really be able to close things down centrally.
Nice touch inside. Lewis tries to come around it. Winchester clapping as he saw something on the other side. It's Kaleem Highland, the captain, who earns the foul. The good news, I guess, from the U.S. perspective is this Trinidadian team does tend to collapse at times in the second half. Ball blasted by Dani Alves on the doorstep against Chile, and it's Paulinho. Perfect position again. Those late runs into the box for the Barcelona midfielder, and he's making a name for himself. 5th goal in qualifying, if I recall correctly. But bad news for Chile, as it looks like they might be on their way out. Here's Jones. Can he do it again? And he almost does. Handcuffs Howard, who scrambles over to get to it, tries to tackle it off of Winchester, and does, and it trickles out for the corner kick. Oh, Alvin Jones. He must be watching Roberto Carlos videos in his spare time.
Yeah, but look at this, as far as the way that ball moves, and it bounces right before Howard makes it so difficult, and Howard has to be the one to get out. That's a problem for me. Where are the U.S. defenders? It's like they're watching, and they're second to every ball.
Well, played back. Flag stays down. Cut to the inside by Garcia, but Highland shielded away. Flicked on by Pulisic. Good cover by Lewis. Trinidad just first out of the gates, I guess appropriate at Ato Boldon Stadium. Trinidad scored first against Mexico, but then gave up 3 goals late. That was at altitude. We're down 2-0 against Honduras in the match before, but a goal by Jovan Jones made things interesting. They just ran out of time. And then Costa Rica, Kevin Molino had tied it up, and a strong second half. The United States may be holding on hope. Tucked across from Neymar to Gabi Jesus, and Brazil adds a second, so Chile's World Cup dreams may be on the ropes. The United States still holding on. Alvin Jones gave Howard a nightmare last time. This one deflected Pulisic and Wood, and Bradley just spanks it out to midfield. By the way, last year plus, no one has scored a goal for Argentina other than Lionel Messi, and that stat's still true, but he does have 2 on the board after that early goal by Ecuador, so Argentina has jumped into the top 3. Take a look as this one closes in Cova. Trinidad and Tobago with a 2-0 lead. Mexico scored first. Honduras equalized, but then Vela giving El Tri the lead as they head towards the half. Panama and Costa Rica still 1-0 in the first half. Stick around. The Ford halftime show coming your way to get you up to date on all of the World Cup qualifying.